the local, right? But what is the national pulse on Jalen Hurts? What's the national view of Jalen Hurts?
I think right now he's I don't want to call him a rising star because that's not correct, but he's a quarterback on the rise. I think that's a fair assessment of him. It's the Eagles are going to be really good if Jalen Hurts takes his game to the next level. That seems to be the natural perspective here. And a lot of people that at least I have discussed over Jalen Hurts, he had a good year last year. They did a lot better than people thought.
Good morning. You guys are tuning to Birdies 365. He's John McMullen, and I'm Tone DeShields II, filling in for a sick Jody Mac. Thank you guys for locking in on another episode. Make sure you guys smash that like button first and foremost. But as you guys can see, we're joined by a very, very special guest, the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports.com. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, Tone, glad to see you in the host chair for Jody today.
Hey, I'm doing my best.
It's good to see you, Jeff, and thanks for being malleable. Our exciting news, but I want to keep that under wraps coming up for Jeff Kerr. So stay tuned for that. But you were in the green room. Tony and I were kind of discussing expectations and players, and you know how it is. I mean, you're on social media, Jeff, a lot, and I see you get into it occasionally with some people, and I've learned over the years that it's probably not worth it. I do my best to stay out above the fray, but expectations are what they are, and sometimes they're unrealistic. Has the pendulum kind of shifted for you? Are things starting to get a little bit unrealistic after what's been, look, to be fair, a very, very good offseason for Howie Roseman?
So I'm just going to go from an NFL perspective. In the last 2 weeks, I have heard these types of takes. Dak Prescott's not a good quarterback. Dak Prescott is overrated. Lamar Jackson can't throw. Lamar Jackson's overrated. The Ravens can't win with Lamar Jackson. What's the other one? Oh, Joe Burrow's not any good. I've heard that one before.
Joe Burrow.
So it's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes isn't any good. Then the Chiefs are taking a big step downhill this year. There's no Tyreek Hill. I'm trying to think of all the other ones I've heard over the last but those have been the main ones, and we haven't even got to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles yet. It seems like that's more of a Philadelphia thing because nationally, a lot of people believe in Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, and I just don't know if Jalen Hurts' doubters want to hear that right now.
Tom?
That's interesting you say that because it's really easy to get caught up in the vacuum of Philadelphia, right? You hear everything around the city. Everyone's putting the utmost pressure on Jalen Hurts for good reason, right? Jalen Hurts is trying to be the franchise quarterback. But at the same time, he has flaws in his game, flaws you can't really ignore. What I know you say the national attention of Jalen Hurts isn't as scrutinizing as the local, right? But what is the national pulse on Jalen Hurts? What's the national view of Jalen Hurts?
I think right now I don't want to call him a rising star because that's not correct, but he's a quarterback on the rise. I think that's a fair assessment of him. The Eagles are going to be really good if Jalen Hurts takes his game to the next level. That seems to be the natural perspective here. And a lot of people that at least I have discussed over Jalen Hurts, he had a good year last year. They did a lot better than people thought. I still think the Eagles are being slept on as a contender in the NFC. I think everybody's talking about Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles. They're the three, obviously. But then it's a wide open field. Can the Minnesota Vikings be good? What are the New Orleans Saints? Are the Dallas Cowboys overrated? Yes, they are. They were overrated last year. Are the Arizona Cardinals going to be good? Are they going to fade in the second half? And it just seems like the Eagles are that team that I don't want to say anybody forgets about them, but it just kind of feels like a team at least from some people, it's like, okay, we feel they're going to win 10 games. They're going to be in the mix. It's just how good are they going to be?
Well, let's be fair, Jeff. So you mentioned the three teams I think everybody thinks are at the top of the NFC. One, obviously, is the reigning Super Bowl champions, and you have that natural, it's very tough to repeat. But you also have Green Bay, you have Tampa Bay and their history. And what's the difference between those three teams and the Eagles? I mean, we're talking about Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and then you have the Eagles, who have a good roster. But, and I'll bring up our buddy Derek Gunn again, because he created a bit of a firestorm. And I think people got, and let me make this clear now that I've gone down this road. D Gunn is above reproach as a reporter. The fact that everybody gets down in the weeds about the mechanics of a 7-on-7 drill, which I was trying to explain to people, that's not the point of this story. Somebody can get it wrong. They might not be paying attention. But you don't have 10 straight reps in 7-on-7. You're not going to throw 3 interceptions in 7-on-7. You're not taking sacks, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Okay. The point of it was the Eagles are not comfortable with Jalen Hurts. Why would they be comfortable with Jalen Hurts, Jeff Kerr? Why should they be comfortable with Jalen Hurts? I would be angry at this team if they were comfortable with Jalen Hurts. He can prove it, but he hasn't proven it yet.
If they were comfortable with Jalen, they wouldn't have tried to trade for Russell Wilson this
Exactly.
That's all I got to say about it. And look, I love Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts can be a really good player in this league. I think he is what people are calling him, a player on the rise. And I could see a Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts. And is that the worst thing in the world? No, because at least you know you have a franchise quarterback. And I think that's what he ultimately can be. I don't think he'll ever be Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he'll ever be Justin Herbert. But if you can get a top 10 quarterback out of this guy with that roster, I think you're going to be in pretty good shape.
And that's my thing, right, Jeff? You know, you have people who are trying to jump out the window and say Jalen Hurts can be elite. He can be elite. But little do they realize elite is so far in between. There aren't many elite guys in this NFL. You know, once you start to name off guys like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Joe Burrow and Herbert and, you know, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, you know, Patrick Mahomes, it gets a little dicey after that, right? And I feel that people need to, again, curb their expectations. That's that word again, expectations. Curb the expectations and accept the fact that Jalen doesn't need to be elite to be productive in this offense. He doesn't have to be the best quarterback. He doesn't have to be top 5. If Jalen can somewhat broach that top 12, top 11 range and show that he can make consistent throws, I think he'll be in good shape. But again, this Philadelphia Eagles team for the past 20 years, or maybe in our history, have yet to really come close to having a prolific passing offense. And that begs the question, will a top 12 or top 13 Jalen Hurts be enough for Howie Roseman to commit to him? We know he has 2 first-round picks in the gun for next season. So what's your thoughts on that?
See, that's what makes it tough. If he's a top 12 quarterback, if he has a good year, and I'll just be fancy guru here and say he throws for 3,700 yards, runs for 700, has a 65% completion rate. Is that good enough? And that's what I worry about. Is that good enough for Howie Roseman? Or does he go into the wish and say, you know what? I might have a shot at Bryce Young here. I might have a shot at C.J. Stroud. I might have a shot at a better quarterback. Or in his mind, a franchise quarterback. Or can I flip Jalen Hurts and get a top draft pick? That's what upsets me. So I'm looking at it as, okay, what do you have to do to essentially prove Jalen Hurts is a franchise quarterback? Because you're always going to have his doubters. I see it all the time. People tell me on Twitter every single day, he can't make this throw, he can't make that throw. And usually this is my response back. You guys know I can nitpick like you do and do this with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert every single day of the week. It's not this or this or this. You can't just dissect one play or highlights, as McMullen calls them, or low light. You got to evaluate the total package. And if it's 3,700 yards, 65% completion rate, 700 rushing yards, I can live with that. Oh, and by the way, the Eagles go 11-6 or 12-5. I can live with that as well, but can the front office?
Right. And John, really quickly, and that's my question. What is Howie Roseman exactly looking for from this quarterback position? Is it 3,700 yards, like you said? Is it 3,800? Is it a consistent 4,000-yard passer? What is that benchmark that he could potentially be comfortable with? And John, you can jump in on this because I'm genuinely curious. I know we all make a lot of assumptions about what's a prolific passing offense and what that may look like in Philadelphia, but what exactly is Howie Roseman looking for? Have you guys heard anything behind the scenes?
Well, I could this is the frustrating part. And people, there is no benchmark. There is no number. I will say, if he throws for 4,000 yards, that's probably not a good thing. It's probably not a good thing.
Interesting.
That means you're throwing the football too much. That means you're probably behind. I thought, and it was Chris Franklin, our buddy from NJ.com, he brought up a good point about the third receiver position. And we asked him, Jeff, do you think Quez Watkins is going to play more, or do you think Zach Pascal is going to play more? And I think everybody defaults to, well, it's going to be Quez Watkins, right? He's more talented. He's the explosive guy. And Chris pointed out, it's counterintuitive. You probably don't want that. You probably want Zach Pascal out there more, because if Zach Pascal's out there, what does that indicate? That indicates you're ahead in the fourth quarter and you're trying to run the football and you're trying to run the 4-minute offense and you're trying to get to the finish line. Fantasy football is what it is, fantasy football. But I gave, Kirk Cousins numbers, Derek Carr's numbers. The more you throw the football, it's not always a good sign. It's not always a good sign. And for all the prodigious numbers of Justin Jefferson, well, the Vikings haven't been that good. They're behind games. He's got opportunities to catch the football. Great receiver. I'm not trying to tremendous receiver. But I think the assumption is that if you drop him in this offense, he's going to have the same numbers. No, he's not. No, he's not. And you don't want that. You might want him for your fantasy team, but the Eagles want to win games. So Howie Roseman, to get to your point, John, he's going to evaluate, can I win consistently with this particular quarterback? And that's intangible, and that's going to frustrate people. Jeff?
And that's the other thing. Like, what defines intangibles? Because we all think Kirk Cousins here is the top 15 quarterback in this league. But then you get Vikings fans that get upset because I'll point out his 2-9 record on Monday Night Football, and they'll be like, "Well, he won his last 2." I'm like, "Yeah, against the Bears." Let's not get bullshit here. Let's put things in perspective. And same with Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott's a really good quarterback, but facts are the facts. He's never been to an NFC Championship game. I think he has a losing record in the playoffs, and his last playoff performance is not good. And I'm telling people, look, we're in year 7 now with Dak Prescott. Is this who he is? Like, is that what you want? Like,
well, I don't want to, but real quick, I just want to break in, Jeff, and I don't want to, but I'll, because Jody's not here, I'll tweak him a little bit. And I hope you're getting better, Jody. But Jody used to criticize the heck out of me for saying, Matthew Stafford's a good quarterback. Matthew Stafford's a good quarterback. Matthew Stafford's a good quarterback. For years on the Lions, it was a bad team. It was a good quarterback on a bad team. Now, he got validated last year. He finally got on a good team. He wins the Super Bowl. He's validated, right? But, if New Eagles safety, Jaquiski Tartt, can just pick up an interception, he's not validated. That's how close it is. That's how close it is. But I can tell you, Matthew Stafford, and I've been telling people for years, is a damn good quarterback.
Very.
And that's the intangible part of it that is frustrating, I think, for people. I can't say that.
Jimmy Garoppolo is one of those people. He's not Matthew Stafford, but he's a lot better than people say he is. And I'm not saying he's going to win for another franchise like he did with San Francisco, but if you're the 49ers, you better be damn sure Trey Lance is that much better than him, because you've been to 2 NFC Championship games in the past 3 years. And I know Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't played well in fourth quarters in these postseason games, but he's led the NFL in yards per attempt.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not with you with Jimmy G. And the reason why, Jeff, is because of Kyle Shanahan. Anybody who knows this show, watches the show, I have tremendous respect for Kyle Shanahan.
And that's the risk the 49ers are taking. It's we can win with anybody under Kyle Shanahan, and that's fine. I agree with that. But
let me push back a little bit, you guys. I don't know how true that is. And this is me playing devil's advocate here. Let's be honest. When Jimmy G's in, Kyle Shanahan and San Fran, they win. When he's not there, they seem like they can't really figure out which way is up, which way is down.
All right, counterpoint. When Nick Bosa's playing, they win. When Nick Bosa's not playing, they don't win.
That's probably going to go McMullen. I'm like, when I picked the MVP, I had to pick MVPs of every NFC team this year. I didn't do the easy way out of the quarterback. Nick Bosa was mine because when Nick Bosa
unbelievable
gets a sack,
player. Unblockable.
The 49ers are like 9-1, I think, when Nick Bosa gets a sack. By the way, he's
I think he's better than his brother, honestly. He's better than his brother.
He is.
He is.
Joey's pretty good, too. Joey's pretty good, too.
It's funny, like, so when I did this, I think they're 9-1 when Bosa gets a sack. Bosa is already the 49ers postseason sack leader. He's only played like 5 or 6 postseason games. It's kind of insane to think about that. Like, if it's a postseason game, Nick Bosa is going to get a sack.
Yeah, getting back to Jimmy G, and that's kind of interesting because he's cleared to throw, and it's going to be interesting to see where he lands up. You go back to their first run to the Super Bowl, and by the way, they should have won that Super Bowl. They outplayed Kansas City.
In that fourth quarter of that Super Bowl.
It was in the divisional round. I think Jimmy threw an interception, Eric Kendricks, and Kyle Shanahan just said, you know what? Screw this. We're just going to run the football. And they had the great running game, the unique running game with Deebo Samuel involved, the great offensive line. And they had to play a certain way.
So do you think that was the moment he realized that, I can see it. I'm going to need to
I can visualize 2 moments in my life watching football. One is Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl against the Chicago Bears. Remember that? The Bears, I think, took the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. And the Colts got the football, and they were going down the field, and Peyton Manning tried to push it a little bit against Lovie Smith's cover 2, and they literally put the camera on him. He threw an interception, and he said, I got it. I know what I did wrong. And they were just going to play that cover 2, and he just murdered it the rest of the game, to the point that Brian Urlacher at the end of the game was screaming at his own sidelines, like, we got to get more aggressive. We got to change things up. He just sliced and diced him. That was moment 1. Moment 2 was Kyle Shanahan, that interception there at Kendricks. He said, you know what? This guy can't play. We're going to get to the Super Bowl in this specific way. And he did it. And he's been trying to replace him since. And I got to tell you, Jeff, and this is where I said, you go back to that Green Bay game with the upset, the special teams won it for San Francisco.
Oh, yeah,
Garoppolo was awful. Awful.
He wasn't really good the entire playoff. I mean,
no.
To be honest, and again, I just think he's better than what people give him credit for. I just hate the whole, the Mina Kimes take. Jimmy Garoppolo is a terrible quarterback. Okay, well, let's push the buttons a bit. He's not terrible, but
he's a game manager. He's an average quarterback. I will say this about Jalen Hurts, though, bringing it back to the Eagles. People rightfully point out, and I say all the time, that they wanted Russell Wilson, they wanted Deshaun Watson. Now, I don't think the Eagles would have ever went to the contract Cleveland went to. So ultimately, I don't think even if he spoke to him, it would have mattered. But they wanted the player. They wanted that type of upgrade. But so people say, well, that's an insult to Jalen Hurts. No, it's not. They've also complimented him. They have no stinking interest in Jimmy G. They had no interest in Baker Mayfield. And you could argue
I don't want to meet him, and I like him. I just don't want him as Eagles quarterback.
Well, and they're more proven in theory than Jalen Hurts, so that's kind of a compliment. for saying, all right, we want to get better, but we only want to get better if we can get the home run. Like we don't want some guy who's a lateral move or maybe
or marginally better.
better.
It's not enough. There's no
But
reason to give
when
up as many assets it will require.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's when you get stuck with Sam Bradford, when you go for players like that.
Yeah. Which I think is a compliment to Jalen Hurts. So people miss that back end of it, in my opinion.
By the way, this is my favorite thing. This is an insult to Jalen Hurts. You think Jalen Hurts really cares what?
No, I know he doesn't. I know he doesn't.
Exactly. I mean, he's got A.J. Brown speak for him now, so it doesn't matter what Jalen Hurts says or does anymore.
No. And Jalen, because people get on me for criticizing Jalen. Jalen and I have a pretty good relationship. And I think because he thinks I'm fair, and I ask fair questions and I say fair things. But there are times you see him get frustrated. He'll shut down with the one-word answers. But as a whole, and I give credit to Nick Saban with this, because I hear the same thing about Mac Jones. I hear the same thing about Tua. He trains those guys well. And Jalen calls it rat poison. And rat poison can be bad. I think people assume it's criticism. But it can also be good, and that goes back to our opening of the show tone. If guys are blowing smoke up your what and saying how great you are, that's rat poison too. And Jalen's really, really, really good about.
I still remember when I asked
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, when I asked Jalen Hurts last year about rat poison, he goes, "You know what? Just don't buy into the hype. Your way." And I'm like, okay, that's to me that I guess that's how he means by rat poison. So that's exactly what it is. But I'll tell you what, if we're criticizing Jalen Hurts in Philly, you guys got to see the Tua takes down in Miami. It is brutal. It's man, I hope that kid has a good year because Buffalo fans are getting on. Patriots fans. I don't think we've seen a quarterback under any more pressure in the last 10 years to attack Viola in the Miami Dolphins this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it from this perspective, all three Alabama quarterbacks right now are kind of under a microscope. Yes, the New England Patriots, they made it to the playoffs with Mac Jones, his first year starting, being a rookie. That was pretty exciting, but you saw the glaring difference between a guy like him and a guy like Josh Allen. You saw the disparity in their talent and where they are in their careers. Obviously, Josh Allen has many more years under his belt, but Mac Jones, he looked a bit shaken in that game. He looked more flawed than he looked all season, in my opinion. And then Tua, he's a guy who's Mr. Dink and Dunk, the guy who's afraid to throw more than 20 yards down the field.
Well, you got to get Jody upset. Jody's a big Tua guy.
Hey, Jody, get well soon, my man.
Tua was third in the NFL in completion rate over 20 yards last year, behind Justin Herbert.
Hey, by the way,
I mean, Jalen Hurts was considered the most explosive quarterback, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean,
I'm still trying to figure out that you know what? I think I'm the guy who found out the explosive play stat because you make that up. I'm like, it's not made up. It's on the NFL website.
Well, you can twist things any way you want. That's part of the problem. Joe Banner always said about advanced, whatever you want to call it, advanced numbers analytics. And the Eagles were always at the forefront. Joe was a part of that. But he said, I don't care about your numbers. Give me actionable information I can use. What's actionable? Like what gives me an advantage? And that's what the Eagles have done so well and a bit ahead of the curve. But real quick about Tua, to button up that topic, people talk about the Eagles being disrespectful of Jalen Hurts for picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, Russell, will you talk to us? Hey, Deshaun, will you talk to us?" Think about Miami. They agreed to trade for Deshaun Watson if he could settle the civil suits. That deal was done already. He knows that. They tried to get Tom Brady. They tried to give him part of the team.
They're still trying to get Tom Brady in a sense. That's not over.
Yeah, and he knows that. And, they're doing everything humanly possible. And now the news comes out that Sean Payton has identified Miami as one of the places he would go to next year when he comes back. And he's going to be the coach of the Dolphins, the Cowboys. I would say it's Dolphins or Cowboys. They threw the Chargers in there as well. And I think it was a Miami Herald report. So if you're Tua and you're Mike McDaniel and you got Sean Payton looking over your shoulder, that's not a good situation.
Do you imagine Sean Payton and Justin Herbert together? Just think about that for a second.
Spooky.
Yeah.
Spooky, very much. But, I don't know why there's this thought process that organizations aren't supposed to not only look out for their best interests, but also continuously look to upgrade. This is the NFL. This is the NBA where a team will sit on a contract for years and not do anything about it. In the NFL, if they pay you and you're not producing, they're very much willing to off that contract and find somewhere for you to go.
Hey, one of my favorite stories. Have I ever told you? Jody knows it. I don't know if you've heard it, Tone. Jeff, I don't know if you've heard it. My Adrian Peterson story when I was covering the Vikings, and they drafted Adrian Peterson. And I don't know if you guys remember Chester Taylor, but he was a pretty good back.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think I do.
Yeah. And he was coming off a 1,200-yard season, and he had, 50 catches out of the backfield. He was a well-rounded back. He was a good player. And it was a bad team at the time, obviously. I think they picked Adrian at number 7. And I asked one of the personnel guys at the time, I said, well, you got a lot of holes. Why are you taking a running back? You got Chester Taylor. And he looked at me, and this was not an insult to Chester Taylor because he thought he was a good player. And he said, F Chester Taylor. This guy's different. And since that day, I've always called them FU players. There's certain FU players. And Jalen Hurts, I love you. I love you. I love you. Russell Wilson, FU player. Sorry, dude. If I can get Russell Wilson, doesn't mean I don't like you. But
I think Jalen of someone who's considered to be one of the more rational, quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's someone who would completely understand that transition. Russell Wilson, a guy who's proven, who's won before. But again, Russell Wilson is someone who hasn't won in quite some time. That's a conversation for another day. But Jeff, I wanted to shift gears just a little bit before we get you out of here. We have about I want to say about maybe 10 more minutes with you. Miles Sanders, again, talking about expectations, and me and John brought up a list, Eagles players who won't live up to the hype in 2022. Miles Sanders is one of those players on that list, and Miles Sanders is in one of those situations where if he does too well, he may not get the contract. He may not get the contract he wants from Philly. He may get it somewhere else, but may not be from Philly. If he doesn't do well enough, then he loses leverage. I personally believe he doesn't have too much leverage to begin with anyway. But what's your thoughts on Miles Sanders' situation as it stands today, and how do you think Howie Roseman will approach it entering the 2022 season and as the season progresses?
So I'm going to play the role of Miles Sanders' agent. I'm going to look up there's a stat out there, yards per touch. When Miles Sanders has started in the NFL since 2019 in yards per touch, his rookie year. When he does get the ball, he's very explosive. But the problem is, I don't know if he doesn't get the ball enough. I don't know if it's because he's injury prone. I guess it's injury prone, or it's the Eagles committee approach. But it just feels like now you just don't give that much money to a running back. And I feel Miles Sanders is one of those guys that when he does get the ball, he's productive. And last year, everybody likes to mention he didn't score a touchdown last year. But I'll point out to you, he averaged 5.5 yards a carry. And he averaged, it was around, I think it was around 6 yards per catch. So, I mean, maybe even higher than that. He's been a productive player when he gets the ball. It's just we have to determine, can this guy handle 200 touches a year? I believe he can. I believe he's done that. It's, do they feed him enough, or is this what he is? Just another running back, or is he a special player? And that's
right.
what Eagles got to figure out.
Right, and real quick, John. Sorry, and that's my thing, right? It's with him, the talent is clearly there. I was reading an article by Brendan Lee Gowton on Bleeding Green Nation, and he was indicating that Miles Sanders, excuse me, he's one of the more frustrating players to watch because you see the talent, but there's moments where he just has boneheaded moments, behind the line of scrimmage. Maybe he picks the wrong hole, or maybe he gets caught dancing a
Runs
little
out
bit,
of bounds in the 4-minute offense.
runs out of bounds in a
who
4-minute
does that
offense
too?
and gets benched.
Yeah.
You know who does that too? I got slammed pre-draft for this. I used to criticize Saquon Barkley for all that stuff. He's a generational running back. I'm like, let me tell you something. Like 2017 Fiesta Bowl, I'll tell you about the 4-minute offense of the dumbest people. So it's clearly a Penn State thing coming from a Penn Stater. But yeah, hopefully my
you're
boy
going to get the Penn.
The key word is expectations, right? The key word is expectations. Miles Sanders is someone who may need to curb his expectations as well, because if you want to stay in Philly, because again, no matter how talented he may be, if I only get that talent for half the season, why would I ever pay you the going rate for what you're providing me? I would much rather pay you a team-friendly contract that I can get out of, worst case scenario, but at the same time, it gives you some level of security. So, John, you can hop in on this part as well. What do you think, Miles Sanders' expectations should be? Should he curb his expectations? How much leverage does he really have in negotiations?
Well, here's I don't know if you can believe that as a player, but I mean, there's a realistic, and I've talked about this a bunch on the show. I'm trying to figure out a path to where Miles Sanders can be here next year. And I don't see one outside of him getting hurt, right? And not having a big season, and people on the outside not wanting him, and the Eagles sort of do the Derek Barnett deal. Like, all right, we'll bring you back at 1 year, $4 million. Because if he finally has that 1,250-yard year, which he's not going to, they don't exist anymore in the NFL pretty much. He's going to get too much money. And if he has the typical 850-yard year, the Eagles are probably going to just want to, turn it over and go with the cost-effective route and the younger back with the less wear and tear and the less injury history. So, I'm at the point where, hey, if Miles go with the hot hand. And understand that if Miles is playing well, give him the football. He's not going to be here next year anyway. You don't have to worry about the wear and tear. It's a harsh way to look at things, but this is the NFL. We've seen it in the past. Guys on contract years, DeMarco Murray, maybe the biggest example in Dallas. Run him into the ground, and hey, good luck.
I'll tell you what's the toughest. This is what Miles Sanders reminds me of going into his contract year. Melvin Gordon with the Chargers. Completely different players, but Melvin Gordon scored a lot of touchdowns. Great in the red zone. He only averaged about 4.1, 4.2 yards per carry, and the Chargers had Austin Eckler. So they moved on, and Gordon's been a productive player in Denver, but he got like a 2-year, $16 million deal. And would you bring Miles Sanders back on something like that? Like, do you think that's feasible?
I don't. Well, here's the thing. The Eagles' offensive line is so good. We saw it last year. Miles led the NFL in yards per carry for running backs. He tied with Taylor and he tied with Chubb at 5.5. Only Jalen and Lamar Jackson had a higher rate, yards per carry. So he was effective, but everybody was effective. And from the eye test, a lot of people thought the offense was more effective when he was out. And that's a problem, because when Jordan Howard has success and Boston Scott has success, I'm at the point where I think I can put Jeff Kerr behind this offensive line and get 4.5 yards a carry.
Maybe one.
And that's the way the Eagles are going to think. And they might even say, you know what? We got Kennedy Brooks. We can get 4.5 yards per carry from Kennedy Brooks, and we don't have to pay him anything. I can't necessarily disagree with them.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's going to be the biggest key to Miles Sanders, where he comes back or not. How much Kenny Gainwell progresses in year 2. If Kenny Gainwell can be that guy that he can average.
See, I don't think he's and I'll leave it here. Jeff Kerr at Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. Reed Jeff there does a tremendous job. I don't think Kenny Gainwell's a bell cow back. And
Well,
I'm not
he is
talking
either.
Jonathan Taylor or Derrick Henry. I mean a true RB1. I think he's a great third down, potential great third down back, hurry up back. Why mess with that? That's what he is. That's
You know
what he
what?
is.
He's not the same type of player, but he kind of reminds me of a Corral Buckholder in a sense. Like you put him in and he's going to make a play. That's what I kind of think of him as. Not the same type of player, obviously, but the same. Like he comes at, like you said, John, third down. You give him the ball, he's going to get a first down for you. And
Yeah.
that's what I like about the kid. I think he's got a bright future in the NFL just on that merit. By the way, so my big radio week will probably be next week anyway with my quarterback coach duo list comes out tomorrow. The top 10. Boy, does that generate controversy every single year. How do you leave Tom Brady off? Well, I have a rule. He is a new head coach, so I can't rank him. So people ask
you can already start 2023 and go with Sean Payton, Tom Brady. How's that in Miami?
It won't count because
I'm new. Yeah. All right. 2024. He'll keep playing. 2024.
Well, last year, I still get ragged on a bit by Rams fan. They get it because they know the rules. They actually read. But they're like, how did you leave Stafford and McVay out last year? I'm like, hey, I put specifically on there. I would rank Stafford and McVay, but I haven't seen Stafford throw a pass under McVay yet. But I said, I expect really good things. And
you're expecting, Jeff, you're expecting a lot if you're expecting people to read. You're expecting a lot.
Oh, man, absolutely.
Fans do read.
No, they do. And I love them. And read at JAKIBSports.com, by the way. Read it.
Definitely. Make sure you guys check out JAKIBSports.com. Hey, Jeff, I have one final question for you, and then we're going to get you out of here, man. Again, we appreciate you for coming on. Let's have a little fun with this final one. What's your over? You taking an over or under on Miles Sanders, 1,000 yards, 1,500 over under?
Under. I'll go under.
Yeah,
I think
we've seen 3 years. I gotta go under. Gotta go
under.
He is the only Eagles running back ever to have 750 plus his first 3 years in the league. The only one. Yeah. We've had some great running backs here. Will Montgomery.
I will say this. I will say this. If Miles is out there for 17 games, he will be over 1,000 yards. Can he stay healthy?
That's it.
That's
he's
basically 50 yards a game, 55 yards a game. If he can't do that, then we have.
Well, if Miles played, I think I did the numbers, Jeff. If he played 17 games last season, he would have finished 6th in the league in rushing. Would everybody have been happy with that? I think so.
Yeah.
I will say that
second season as well.
Miles Sanders scores a touchdown this year.
I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over.
I'll go over on that. I actually think Miles can get 1,500 yards from scrimmage this year if he's healthy. I think that's very doable.
I don't think he's going to get an opportunity to catch the ball. I think that's Kenny Gainwell. I think
he's lost that privilege.
That's the frustrating part of his game. He should be better at catching the ball. I blame James Franklin and a lot of people at Penn State for that.
He's just not good. He's not good at it. His biggest problem is not the hands, although Deuce Staley,
I think it's more the route running personally.
Yeah, it's the route. It's not only the route running as an outlet receiver, and this used to frustrate Doug and Deuce. He's not where he's supposed to be. And you can't, this, Jeff, you can't, rule number one, you can't fool the quarterback. You got to be where you're supposed to be. And too often he's not where he's supposed to be as an outlet receiver. And Kenny Gainwell is always where he's supposed to be.
The big Carson Wentz interception to Sloan, what's the guy's name on Cleveland? The linebacker. I always forget his last name.
Taki.
I think Miles was out of position on that one too.
Yeah,
but
he was.
If I went back and looked, Carson made a terrible, terrible decision. But if I had to make a bet, Miles was probably out of position on that. But I still blame Wentz for that more than him.
Well, remember, a lot of times with quarterbacks as well, when you're going to your back, you're not even looking. You're like, in other words, if you're Tom Brady, I'm looking at, Mike Evans or Gronk or Chris Godwin. And then bang, I'm dumping it off to the back. A lot of times those guys That's where he is. I know that's where my back is. That's what I'm saying. You can't fool the quarterback. They know where the running back, the outlet receiver, is supposed to be. And it's kind of a field thing a bunch of times. You can't fool the quarterback.
But by the way, before I sign off, I got to stick up for Gunn here. So everybody wants to get on him for that report, who,
First of all, he's just telling what somebody told him.
Exactly. And people didn't see the whole quote. But this is why I don't take practice anything seriously, from positive or negative. Nothing drives me more insane than training camp stats. It's practice. It's practice. Guess what? Jeff Kerr shot 279 practicing bowling last night. I did not shoot that in the game because I was working on stuff. Oh, by the way, I've also shot 120s in practice working on stuff.
If 7
any level of sports knows this.
Yeah, if 7-on-7s meant anything, Sam Bradford would be in the Hall of Fame.
For example, Sam Bradford would be the best quarterback in the National Football League. He'd probably still be quarterback of the Eagles because he had the greatest preseason performance I've ever seen out.
Oh, yeah. That one,
man, definitely. Yeah. Hey, Jeff, thank you so much for coming on to the show last minute. You have been a treat, my man. We appreciate your contributions. Again, make sure you guys go check out Jeff Kerr on CBS.com. He does an amazing job for that platform. And also, he pinch hits for JAKIB Sports quite often. So, Jeff, we appreciate
and stay tuned for exciting news next week. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I was going to say, exciting news. A lot of big news coming next week. It's going to be a big year for all of us, you guys. But Jeff, we appreciate you so much, my man. You take care and enjoy the rest of your staycation. All right.
That sounds great. Thanks, guys.